Welcome back to the Poly Tea with D. I hope you guys have been having a great, like 2 weeks, I think is the last time I was on here. I hope you guys had a great Paddy's Day. I think I had a decent one. I can't really remember, which is kind of saying a lot right there and then. But no, I think I had a good time. So I hope you guys had a great time. Um, but yeah, it's been a while, so I'm just gonna catch you guys up on what's been going on. Obviously, the thing that has dominated the news is Micheál Martin at the White House. And everybody's saying, oh my God, he was great. A lot of people are thinking, what a great performance. Obviously, there's some things that people did not like, which we will obviously get into. The overall consensus is could have been worse. For me, I'm kind of the could have not gone camp, you know? But anyway, let's get into my highlights or the highlights of the sit down. I'll be honest, guys, I only watched clips. I wanted to watch the full thing because I was like, let me just see. But guys, I can't take secondhand embarrassment. Like I just was like reading articles and watching clips and stuff like that, but I cannot take secondhand embarrassment. So I just couldn't watch it. Like it just gave me the ick so bad. Like just Micheál Martin just sitting there like a little child or something, and like I just the dynamics were off first of all, and I just like he's just there to lick Trump's ass, and it just makes me so uncomfortable to watch, and I'm just like this is a guy that never fucking stands on business ever, so it's like oh I just didn't want to watch that honestly, and it was like 45 minutes. I was like I'm not doing that. Sorry, I'm not doing that. So. But I did read loads of articles and I did watch lots of clips and got the gist of it all, if you will. Okay? So let's talk about the highlights. First one being one of the reporters asked Trump a question, okay? And the question was, or it was more of a statement. It was like the Irish president has said your war against Iran is illegal. It's an attack on international law. Trump goes, look, he's lucky I exist. And what did Micheál Martin do? Sit there like a mute loaf of bread. Dude didn't say a thing. He just I feel like you could see it in his face that he was like, should I say something? Should I say something? But like, why didn't he? I mean, obviously it's because he doesn't want to like antagonize Trump or whatever. But I don't know, like you had so much vim protecting Keir Starmer. You couldn't just say in one simple term, the president's actually a woman. That oh that was too much. That was too far. Whatever. I just thought that was crazy. And you know what's like when Catherine Conley came out with her speech condemning the illegal attack in Iran, everybody, all the news outlets, and they love to do this every time she speaks about pretty much anything, is how will this affect Trump? What will Daddy Trump think about this? Oh my God, this is not very good. This is not very good. I feel like this could cause a lot of issues. Do you think Trump cares what the Irish president says? Do you think Trump sits around saying, what did Catherine Conley? He doesn't even know who she is. He's that ignorant. He doesn't have a fucking clue. He's so self absorbed and so self centered that he's not sitting around being like, and what did she say? And obviously, in the context of like, it was leading up to St. Patrick's Day, so that's probably why everybody was saying it so much. But like, even on other days where she just says anything, it's always like, before when they were trying to, the election was happening, was like, can she keep her mouth shut? Like, that's not the role of the president to be saying anything, even though that's not even true anymore. Like, everybody keeps talking about the Constitution, and it's like, baby, that was written years ago. Things evolve, okay? And all these Constitution, like, freaks and obsessors, like, things change and they have been changed for a long time. Sure, Mary Robinson was very vocal. Mary McAleese was very like she changed the game. She changed what it meant to be an Irish president. So when Catherine Conley is like speaking out, I just feel like some of these people just don't like her. So they're just like, oh, I wish you wouldn't speak. But I'm like, Michael D was speaking out. Mary McAleese was speaking out. People like the past few presidents have always been very, very vocal about what happens in the country and also what happens internationally. So this narrative that it's like, oh my God, Catherine could be causing problems for us, blah, blah, blah. It's like it's not. It's just such a non-issue, and like it actually is part of her job now. Like the role has changed. Like people vote for her because of her beliefs and what she stands for, because she represents the Irish people. So it's like I want somebody who represents the views that I also hold. That's why people voted for her. So if the Irish people are sitting around saying the invasion of Iran was illegal, it was an illegal attack and a breach of international law, her coming out and saying it was an illegal attack and a breach of international law is not that shocking because again, it's a reflection of the will of the people. Okay? The only person that doesn't understand that is our government, okay? And Micheál Martin, at what point of this meeting with Donald Trump did he say that was an illegal war? Like, this is an illegal war. What point did he say that? Oh, you broke international law with this invasion. At what point did he say that? At no point. And I'm supposed to be like, oh, well, it's a good thing he went there so that he could represent us and represent our interests, because that was the argument, wasn't it? That he could go up there on an international stage and say how we feel. Except he just didn't do that, though. But anyway, that was highlight number one. And kind of a mixture of my one of my last points, but whatever. Next, bro, this one. Let me read the quotes out to you exactly. He said, Churchill was a great wartime leader. Although in Ireland it was kind of a different perspective in terms of our own war of independence and so on. He created his own bit of difficulties for us. Right, so this was in the context of him trying to support Keir Starmer because he goes, let me put it on the record that Keir Starmer is a good leader. Okay, where to even begin? I literally said in this episode I'm not going to waffle so much because I'm just like, I'm such a yapper. But I actually understand him sticking up for Keir Starmer. Like, I understand that. But I would understand it more if it was. First of all, I don't like Keir Starmer anyway, so it's like I'd rather you don't even mention him. But I'm like, why is that the one point you've decided to stand on business on? Why is it? Mind you, Keir Starmer has now rolled back on his promises. He said he doesn't want the US using military bases, and now he's decided he is going to do that. So now what? Like, what was the point of making that declaration of like, he's a good guy? So obviously the reason that Trump was mad at Keir Starmer, it's just not obviously, if you're not paying attention, like, why would you know this? And like, there's so much shit going on, you obviously may not know this, but Donald Trump was mad at Keir Starmer because he came out and said you can't use our bases, right? And I feel like Trump has been doing this thing where he's trying to intimidate people into it or like trick them into it. Like this happened with Spain. Spain said you can't use Spanish bases to attack Iran, and then Trump says, "Oh, I just got off the phone with him, and he actually said it's fine." The Prime Minister Sanchez said it's fine for us to use the bases, and then the Prime Minister of Spain has to come out and say, "I literally said you cannot use our bases," and I'm reiterating that. So I think he was hoping that Keir Starmer, which he was right in the end, he was hoping that Keir Starmer would let the US use the UK bases to strike on Iran. Keir Starmer says, "Nah, we're not going to do that. This is an endless war. There's no point to it." And he gave this long speech, guys, like a 15-minute speech or something, and everybody was so excited, and like the British people were like, "Damn, like this is the guy that we voted for." I mean, whatever. He's such a loser. I always have to get my lick in, honestly, whenever I talk about this guy. But everybody was like, for once, he's standing on business. Literally a few days, and then obviously Donald Trump is like, no, 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 you're a bitch for not letting us use that. He's really mad at Keir Starmer. So this is why Micheál Martin now comes out and starts saying Keir Starmer's a good guy, he's a good guy, like he's a good leader, and you've gotten on with him before, and you can get on with him again, and you can get on with the European leaders before, and you've done it before, you'll do it again. So that's why he's talking so much about Keir Starmer and Winston Churchill, I guess, because Donald Trump had made a reference that like Winston Churchill was a good leader, Keir Starmer is not, kind of thing. So he was kind of referencing that, right? But this whole thing, right, is Keir Starmer's a good leader and he stands on business. But he doesn't stand on business because it literally came out like 2 days ago or yesterday that he's gonna let the US use their bases. So, like, I just don't understand. Micheál Martin deciding that this was the one thing he needed. He said, I have to put this on the record. Keir Starmer is a good leader. Oh, look at that now, huh? Ain't that a bitch? Ain't that a bitch? Right? But anyway, also the Churchill comment, obviously everybody's fucking raging because Churchill is the reason the Black and Tans came into Ireland, starting killing people, beating people, etc., etc. I'm not going to go into a whole history lesson, but Churchill was not a good guy for us or pretty much anyone. He was an imperialist. Hello, invader. You know, like the cause of many, many people dying. Everyone has this idea that he was a great, like, wartime hero, but like he just wasn't even. And I watched this video. Ali MC Forever, you guys should go into her channel because she has so many, her TikTok, because she has so many like historical videos. And she was talking about how Winston Churchill actually wasn't that good of a leader. For so long, he was in debt. Like, he owed everybody money because he was a gambler. He was like, he owed so many people money. And then, perfect timing for him, Austria is invaded, right? And then this leads to somebody like bailing him out because he makes this great speech about like how we're either going to submit to this, to Trump, to not Trump, oh, Freudian slip. We're either going to submit to Hitler or we're going to fight him. It's like this whole thing. Somebody pays off his losses so that he can be leader, and then he becomes prime minister like 2 years later. So it's like he actually, like, he was not a good leader. He was in the pockets, as many politicians are, he was in the pockets of other people. He had no interest in actually protecting the British people or anything. And at one point he was leader of like a quarter of the world, and the world was a shit show. So that's some fucking leader, right? Anyway, Churchill was not a good guy for us, and I mean, to be fair, he does mention that he caused a bit of difficulties for us. That's such a light way of putting it. I'm just a bit like, okay, whatever you say. Yeah, that was a bit of a sticky one still. Everybody was pretty much mad at that one. Let's actually see what other people were saying, what the politicians were saying. Okay, so let's talk about Roger O'Gorman Green Party. He gets a lot of airtime here. I feel like I do pretty good at giving people airtime. Oh, so Roger O'Gorman basically said, "This is not the great victory everybody thinks it is." He kind of ate with that. Okay, he said, "I was particularly struck by the comments of the Taoiseach that Donald Trump is doing his bit for peace in the Middle East." This is my third highlight because why the fuck would you actually say that? Okay, he did come out later and say, like, he had the speech and he was like, yeah, my words were not the best, and like I guess it was just like a slip of the tongue or whatever. But I just don't know how we can in the same breath say that it was a great diplomatic victory when something like that was said, and at no point was he condemning the illegal war in Iran. Like, at no point was he actually speaking about the will of the Irish people, you know? So, whatever. But anyway, he goes on to say, Donald Trump has initiated an illegal war in Iran. He has supported a genocide in Gaza. Donald Trump has generated the economic chaos that we are all experiencing now. Donald Trump has not done his bit for peace in the Middle East. He is the driver of division, of chaos, and of death within the Middle East. He ate that. Shout out Roderick. Shout out O'Gorman. You ate that. Gotta give tens where tens are due because, yeah, what? He did his piece in the Middle East, please. Next, what else were other people saying? What else were other people saying? We've got TD Ruth Coppinger from People Before Profit Solidarity, another big one on the pod. Okay, he managed to say absolutely nothing about the attack on the school in Iran because, yes, he did not mention once that 160 school children are dead in Iran. This was like day one of this illegal war, by the way. Yeah, he didn't think to mention that because murder is apparently doing your bit in the Middle East. Okay. And then, unshockingly and unsurprisingly, Jim O'Callaghan, another non-friend of the pod. We should have friends of the pod and enemies of the pod. He's an enemy of the pod for me, personally. Personally. Okay? He said, like, he's just always up the Taoiseach's ass, which is kind of funny because I'm like, don't you want his job? Don't you want his job? I know you do. Okay? Anyway, he said, what the Taoiseach did yesterday in the White House was extremely important for Ireland's and Europe's point of view. The Taoiseach has to deal with the circumstances which he is faced. Obviously, if you were Taoiseach, you wouldn't have gone to the United States, and this is in reference to Richard Boyd Barrett because he was like, why the fuck was Trump there? Or why the fuck was Micheál Martin in the White House? So, yeah. Um, that's kind of, what else do we have? He said there was a real benefit to this meeting. He was able to speak out in respect of Keir Starmer. And how well did that go? He was able to speak out in respect of immigration because Donald Trump was basically saying that Europe is not what it used to be. It's overrun. This is actually one of the reasons I had to cut off a friend recently because, mind you, she's Eastern European, but she hates what Europe looks like now and that there's so much immigration all over Europe from the east. I don't know, bro. She's just not right. But anyway, he was like, you have all these immigrants coming in and flooding. It's just like, it's not this beautiful paradise it once was, which is, I don't know which era you're referring to. I know he wanted them blue-eyed, white people, blonde hair, like that's what he is referencing. But he's like, it's not what it used to be, it's so blah 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 blah. And then Micheál Martin was obviously like, no, like that's just not true. You know, we have obviously like we have a strong kind of like policy, like we work together, referencing the EU Migration Pact, like we work together and yada 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 yada. So he did speak up in that regard for the immigration here. But what I think is really interesting is that Micheál Martin and just the government in general, they, I feel like, are on a moral high ground when they talk about like what I mean, they don't talk about what's going on in the US and with ICE and stuff, except Jim O'Callaghan at one point did mention that like somebody asked him like, do you see yourself doing the like ICE style deportations where you like pluck people off the street? And he said we're a long way from there. Okay? And he was like, there's parts in Europe that are close to there. Scary. But I think they all are on this kind of like moral high ground where it's like it's not as bad as what's happening in the US, like ICE style immigrate, like ICE plucking people off the street, like all of this kind of stuff. He's like, we're doing it in a very dignified way. But I'm like, just because the immigration policy in the US is dog shit and evil doesn't make this okay. Like our immigration stance in Europe and in Ireland is still dog shit. It's just not as smelly as the one in the US, you know? Like we're still people treating people like second class citizens here. We're still like our immigration policy that's come out, like human rights lawyers are saying it's not great, refugee lawyers are saying it's not great, immigration lawyers are saying it's not great, it's going to cause us lawsuits. It's like we're treating children badly, we're detaining children, um like people don't have enough kind of like support. They don't understand the law as well, because obviously for some people English isn't even their first language, but they don't have support, anyone to help them figure this out. We're speeding up processes, so it's like people are not even getting an actual chance to have their cases heard. So it's like we're just kicking people out. They come in, we kick them out, we kick them out, we kick them out without even giving them due process. Like there's just no due process. But somehow, because the US is way, way worse than what we're at, what we're doing is okay. I think that's what they're thinking in their mind. But I think they're idiots. But no, I won't call them idiots. I'll just say they're not that good at their jobs, maybe. Or they're not kind, or they're not sensitive or have empathy for others. Yes, I think I'll say that instead. Next. This is like not really like a relevant thing. Like if you're kind of like, oh, I just want to know exactly what's going on in politics, then this is not like a crazy thing to know. But I do think that this is very, very interesting. So I'm going to give you guys a quick little story time, if you will. So I actually did a whole thing on this on my TikTok, like a 3-part series. So if you want to actually get the detail of it, you can listen to that. But I'm just going to do this, the Cliff Notes version, because obviously it's quite long actually. But basically, gist of it is there was this inquiry, a McCracken inquiry into Charles Haughey, who was the Taoiseach at the time. I don't know, I think this was like 1996 that this inquiry was happening. And because he was a corrupt guy, he was Taoiseach, but he was taking money from business people, Ben Dunn being one of them. Okay, so he received loads of money. He like engaged in tax evasion, and it's crazy because at this time Charles Haughey was like a man of the people. Like I'm nothing but like I don't have a lot of money, but I just all I care about is you guys. This is why I'm in it. So it's kind of like a bit of a sticky one still that all of a sudden it comes out that you're getting money from Ben Dunn. Yes, Ben Dunn of Ben Dunn Gyms, BD Gyms of Dunn Stores, okay? But also in this inquiry, it comes out that Michael Lowry, who's an independent, but at the time, he was a Fine Gaeler, he was from Fine Gael. So now he's an independent because he was expelled from the party for this very reason, okay? It comes out in this that, and he's from Tipperary, right? Comes out in this inquiry that he basically was getting money from Ben Dunn, right? To the point where Ben Dunn, when he was doing up the ILAC Centre, got his personal contractor or architect to do up Michael Lowry's house in Dublin, like doing an extension. Like, literally was like, oh my god, I have the guy for you. He's busy doing the ILAC, but he'll help you out. And then in the inquiry, it comes out that £395,000 was spent on this. And keep in mind, this is 1990s, like the 1990s. So I don't even know how much that it would be in euro now. I'd say 500,000, I'd say. I'd say around that, genuinely. Maybe more, maybe a bit less, but something around that, okay? So, like, shit. I actually need to know exactly how much that is. Sorry, just for the curiosity of it all. Guys, I just did the calculations. Now it would be like 943,000 euro. How is that true? It's like this inflation calculator, and I put it into pounds first because that's what we were doing back then. We were in pounds. It's £819,000, and then I did how much is that in euro right now. It's 943,000. So can you imagine the level of scandal that would have caused? 400k, which is equivalent to nearly a million now. Oh, brother. Okay, and this guy still has a career, okay? So this comes out, right? So obviously, Michael Larry is a bit like, oh, well, he denies all of this actually. He says, well, first of all, it actually wasn't even that much money, so whatever. Like he helped me out, but like it was around like 20,000 or something. Like it wasn't that much money, but the contractor, the architect came out and he was like, nah, baby, I spent way more than that. Like let's not lie. So when all of this comes out, he leaves the party. Okay, so Fine Gael are like, bro, this is like November 1996. Fine Gael are like, do you know what, babe? You're actually a little too corrupt for us. You have to go. So he leaves, whatever. Next election comes around, he just runs as an independent, and he's been an independent ever since, right? But what's interesting is the Moriarty Tribunal comes out next, right? Because all of the stuff comes out, so they're like, you know what, we should do another in depth, because this is just an inquiry. So they're like, if we found this in an inquiry, what could we find out in a tribunal? So the full name was called the Tribunal of Inquiry into Certain Payments to Politicians and Related Matters, okay? And it started in 1997, and it ran for 14 years, okay? 14 years. Finally, like the state spent millions of this, and finally the results come out in 2011, right? What do they say? There was a mobile phone license competition, okay? And what that is basically now we have like Vodafone, we have Three, we have um Tesco Mobile. Like honestly, anybody can kind of get a mobile phone license, like whatever you use to go on your phone. But back then, keep in mind it's the 90s, like the mid 90s. There's not many options. We have one company that has a mobile phone license. So imagine you're that company. You're making bank because every single person that wants a phone and needs to make calls or whatever needs to join a mobile phone service. So if you're that company, you're making bank, okay, because you're the only option. But then the government says, you know, we'll open a competition so we can have a second one, right? And at this time, Michael Lowry is Minister for Communication, so this falls under his remit. So he's supposed to be running this competition to find it. But because he's a minister, they say, you know what? The minister himself won't be involved. It'll be his department, but choose some civil servants, lock them in a way for like a year or whatever, and let them figure it out. So he is not supposed to have any involvement in this mobile phone license competition at all, right? Enter Dennis O'Brien, who is a businessman. He wants a mobile phone license, right? He wants this bad. I mean, as many people do. The civil servants have come up with this plan that all these people are going to be in competition, and they're going to rank it by like first, second, and third. Whoever gets first is obviously who's going to be awarded the competition. And it's like, you know, how much money can you put in? Like, you have to fill out an application, and then they rank the applications. What happens though is that Dennis O'Brien and Michael Larry have a meeting, and it's like at a pub after some match, and like people saw them having this meeting. We don't know exactly what was said in the meeting, but it's assumed that in that meeting Dennis O'Brien and Michael Larry were talking about the application. And mind you, Michael Larry is supposed to have no involvement at this application or this process at all. He said to Dennis O'Brien, baby, that application is falling flat. Like, you don't really have a chance at this point. You need to up your money, up your game. Like, you don't have enough money. So Dennis O'Brien reaches out to, I think his name is Dermot Desmond. He's another businessman, and asks him for money. So he basically gets a note from Dermot Desmond, gets a note from his bank saying, I have money if you award him this license. And the bank says, yeah, he has 10 million in his account if you need it. Like, if you award him this license, I will give him the money. The money is there. So the bank gives him this letter. He adds it to the application. Boom, it rises up. It's got strength. Problem is, though, when the rankings came out, ESAT Digifone, which is Dennis O'Brien's company, came third. But they got the mobile phone license. So it's like, how do you come third and get the mobile phone license, right? So that's what the whole tribunal was about. And they basically said it was because of the influence of Michael Lowry. Michael Lowry says, I didn't do it. Will you guys stop lying on my name? I did not do that. Leave me the fuck alone. And it also comes out that Dennis Bryan paid for an extension on another one of Michael Lowry's houses. What is with Michael Lowry and his fucking houses and extensions on them and getting businessmen to pay for them? So Michael Lowry says that didn't happen. Sorry, none of my business. I don't know why you guys keep lying on my name. Okay. And there's all this other stuff that came out as well, but like this is like the main crux of it. And Dennis O'Brien, famous quote that he keeps saying is, "I did not give that man one red cent," which I'm like, that's a lie. That's a lie. Because during the process of this investigation, it came out that there was so many different ways in which Dennis O'Brien was trying to give Michael Lowry money. So one of the things was like Dennis O'Brien gave Michael Lowry's like business manager or somebody who like does business for him in London, gave him money, and then that manager went and bought houses in London and under Michael Lowry's name. That was one way. Then it was like money going through like the Bank of Jersey, like these offshore accounts. But the thing is, once these investigations started, the money was halted. So a lot of this money never even made it to Michael Lowry, which is kind of funny that it's like all of this and you didn't even get your bag. Like, damn. So all of it came out that there was like so many different ways that Dennis O'Brien was trying to get the money to Michael Lowry without they're actually giving him like a direct debit to his bank account. You know what I mean? So that was crazy. But anyway, this tribunal happens. 2011, we get the results. 2011, all of this information from the tribunal gets sent to the DPP, Director of Public Prosecutions, I think. Anyway, gets sent to the DPP. They then investigate for guess how many more years? I'm going to give you guys a second. Another 14 years. January 2025, DPP says, we've got our information, we've done all our investigations, and then they sent all their findings to the guards, January 2025. We're now in, damn, we just had Paddy Day, so we're in March. We're now in March, and it comes out that the guards say, we're actually not going to charge him on anything, and they're not charging Dennis O'Brien either. So they both got away with this scot fucking free. Michael Lowry 2 gaffs in. And like there was all this stuff about Michael Lowry and like Ben Dunn, and like Ben Dunn basically owned Michael Lowry's fridge company because it's like there was so much shit, but Michael Lowry basically had this fridge company, and Ben Dunn was like, I'll sell your fridges in Dunn's whatever for like a good deal or whatever. And Michael Lowry's okay, yeah, sure, you can do this for like a discounted price, but I want you to give me 50K a year to my personal private bank account, not my business account, my personal private bank account. And then through all of this, it comes out that like Michael Lowry had basically been evading tax this whole time through all of these kind of like schemy ways that he was getting money from people. But apparently, it's not enough to prosecute. And one other funny fact is that you can find a video actually of Micheál Martin, our current Taoiseach. I think it's in 2011 when the tribunal results came out, calling for Michael Lowry to resign. He said this guy is a corrupt man. He's not a good guy. He doesn't deserve to be here. He should resign. He should not be in this doll chamber. So in 2011, Micheál Martin, he thought Michael Lowry was a terrible, corrupt man who should have no place in government, in politics. But now all of a sudden, it's okay that he's the leader of the independents, and you formed a coalition with him. Is that what I'm supposed to be led to? I'm supposed to be led to believe? Oh, oh. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these people in power at the moment, they don't actually care about anything but being in power, and they will get there by any means necessary, even if it means compromising their morals. Because obviously, these are the two options. Micheál Martin never cared about Michael Lowry being corrupt, ever, and he only said that to gain political points. Or he did care about Michael Lowry being corrupt, but now he cares more about being power, so he's willing to put aside his morals. Which one is it? Neither options are pretty good. I don't know. That's just me though. So that's where we're at with that. Sorry for the whole Michael Lowry thing, but I just thought you guys would find that interesting little story time. It's kind of like history, so if you like history, it's a bit of that. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, he is no longer gonna be charged, and now there's Dennis O'Brien, so that's kind of crazy. That like we all know he's corrupt, but it doesn't matter. And that's the crazy thing about Irish politics. It's like, I mean, actually, almost all politics. It's like even if a whole government or the whole doll chamber doesn't like you, or the majority of the country doesn't like a politician, that doesn't matter. You just have to appease your constituents. And the people of Tipperary love this man. He even has like his own like mini party. He has like a Lowry team where he has local councillors that he like hand selects, like local people that he hand selects, and then helps them get into local council. Like, damn, that's crazy. So shout out Michael Lowry. He's a businessman at the end of the day. At the end of the day, but the Tipperary people love him. That's why they keep voting for him. Oh, this is going to be such a long episode. Sorry for waffling so much, but there's just so much to cover because it's been 2 weeks. 2 days. 2 days. Anybody watched Love Island? Anna? 2 days. Anyway, next, let us talk about the current gas prices and what is going on. So obviously, because of this war in Iran, gas prices have shot up. Kind of like they shouldn't technically be shooting up because we have reserves, but like for so many different reasons they're shooting up. Like right now, let me give you some numbers. The national average jumped from 1.72 euro a liter in diesel to now 1.90 a liter, which is not even. This is also probably out of date. I saw this, like, I got this 2 days ago. It's probably more than that now because sure, when I go to my local diesel's like 2.20 a liter. My petrol for me, which I actually haven't topped up in like 2 weeks or something, like I haven't really driven, that's now like 190 at my local. Some other places are like 180 something, 188. Like you're not finding anything cheaper from like for like 183 or something. Okay, that, like, for petrol. For diesel, you're not finding cheaper than €2, which is crazy. Okay, so there's been like protests, like the hauliers had protests because they were like, this is like, if you're doing these long ass journeys all the fucking time, you cannot afford to be paying so much money for petrol or diesel. Like, it's just not a possibility. It's hard for just people in general, like, but if your job is something where you have to be on the road like that, it's just like not possible to be paying that much regularly. And then also gas prices are up, electricity prices are up. um Apparently food prices are going to go up because it obviously costs money to make food. No, it costs money to make food, obviously, but you need gas to make food, electricity to make food. They have to like, they're going to add those price increases into the price of their actual products now, because it's like, if you have to pay all this money for transporting food and transporting all of these things and cooking all of these things and manufacturing all these things, like, you're obviously just not going to take that hit. The consumer will take that hit, right? Lovely that Neil Martin didn't even think to mention this in his meeting with Trump. But anyway, because he's doing his bit in the Middle East. Right, sure, look, here, listen. So what is the government doing to combat this? Well, first their policy was, we'll just wait and see. We'll have a look. We're not too sure. They said this war might not even last that long, guys. Come on now. It might not even last too long. So let's just see what happens. Prices could just go down magically, I guess. Yeah, so their policy was just wait and see. So then Sinn Féin introduced an emergency legislation to cut down on petrol, diesel, and home heating oil, and it would go down like, um, let me read. Under the bill, the excise duty on home heating oil would be removed entirely. Excise on petrol and diesel would be reduced by 25% per litre, and excise on green diesel used by farmers would also be cut. So this was like an emergency thing, like let's just get something on the books quickly. The government said no. No, because why would we do that? And they said, we actually do have something coming. We're not going to tell you what that something is, but sit tight, baby. There's something coming. Just wait. So they shut that down because they have their own thing. So we'll see what that own thing is. It's supposed to be announced next week. So we shall see what that is. But it's like the fact that their policy was like, we'll just wait and see is crazy. But that's their kind of policy for a lot of things. So I'm not that shocked. Okay, next topic. We're gonna be like flying through these now because I feel like the three biggest things that I want to talk about are done now. So we can fly through the rest. Okay. Interesting. CHI. Children's Health Ireland. Probably one of the most corrupt organizations we actually have in Ireland. And it's like a government body, kind of crazy because it's scandal after scandal after scandal. Shout out Scandal, the best show on TV or in the world. But I like my scandals on TV and fake, not in real life, okay? So let's see what the scandal is now. €30,000 was paid to the CHI in 2022 by a contractor, and this was used to cover a staff Christmas party. What staff Christmas party cost 30K? Oh, that's a staff Christmas party I want to go to. Um, 30K is crazy for a staff Christmas party, and it's also crazy that you got that from somebody that you have a contract with. Okay? Like, that's very corrupt. Does it get more corrupt than this? Oh, it does, because they don't declare it. They don't declare it. So then there was an audit done in 2024, and they had to be questioned on the transaction. They said, what's that? What is that? It's like, is that €30? No, that's 30K. And where did that come from? What was that used for? So then the CHI had to declare it, and they paid it back 2 years after receiving it. What do you mean? You got 30K from a contractor, didn't tell anybody, and now 2 years later you're returning it and you're hoping that's the end of it. No! That is not the end of it. How fucking corrupt is this place? And they've had governance changes, but like, this is a structural issue. This place is corrupt to its core. I don't know how they're finding the staff here, how they're picking them, but there was an Oireachtas committee meeting and they were basically like, this is not over. There's so many questions to be asked here. Like, I'm so confused, okay? So hopefully we will get more information on this. Hopefully there'll be more Oireachtas committee meetings where they can actually interrogate the people who received this money and who decided not to declare this. Um, but yeah, or disclose. Declare, disclose, same thing. Okay, let's talk about Bessborough Mother and Baby Home, okay? So basically, a developer, they're called Estuary View Enterprises, right? They got permission to construct 140 homes, residential apartments on the Bessborough site in Cork, in Ballynure. Yeah. Okay, so you're probably thinking, okay, great, 140 apartments. No, 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 no. This is actually really, really sad. Okay, so a Mother and Babies Home Commission reported in 2021 that 923 babies associated with Bessborough died between 1922 and 1998. And the burial records exist for only 64 of them. So a lot of the people who are survivors or victims or like advocates um have said that they think the babies are buried there, like on this site, and they think that there's still like remains there, buried there. So it would be wholly inappropriate to build apartments over the remains of these babies. I mean, I'm not even sure how this is a conversation, how this is a question, how this is a discussion. Okay. Um, yeah, but it's kind of like they want to just kind of paint over a really sad point of history and just like pretend like it didn't happen. But I'm like, no, there's survivors alive today, victims alive today who are impacted by this. And like, I just feel like we're just at a point in life, like, you just have to listen to these people, like, listen to survivors, listen to victims, like, just listen to them. I just don't know why people always think that they know better than the people who were mostly impacted by things like this. Okay, so what did Jim O'Callaghan say? I'm sure this man was filled with compassion and empathy and understanding. Even though he's a guy who once said, as Minister for Justice, I don't have to be sensitive, I have to get things done, or whatever, something along those lines. He's just not a very empathetic person. He said, unless there's specific, strong evidence as to where bodies are buried there, we could find ourselves buying a very vast site to carry out excavations that could take an interminable period of time. I can understand the concern, but I don't think purchasing the site is the answer. Is that what you think, Mr. O'Callaghan? Is that what you really think? Holly Currency, the Social Democrats leader, basically challenged this and was like, "That's really not a good argument because this is what she said: if a child disappeared today and it was suspected that they were buried in a particular plot of land, there would be a forensic examination. So can you tell me why the families of the 829 unaccounted for disappeared children don't deserve that, but the families of the children entombed do?" Good point. Good question. I'd like to hear the answer. Yet to be heard. So there was a protest this Wednesday, and it's called No Building Over Bessborough, and it was like support from all of the opposition, and they basically were calling for the state to intervene to shut this down. Shut it down. Okay. And then there's a Labour senator who her name is Laura Harman. She is actually like somebody who has ties to Bessborough. Her mother was in Bessborough, and she said there can be no building on this sacred site and that it would be unacceptable. It is unacceptable, guys. The idea that you would just build over the bodies of 829 children. She said that I love this idea actually. She said that it should be used as like a memorial and used for education. So we should have schools going in there to learn about our shameful history and how we treated women. We can't concrete over this part of our history. We have a shameful history in this country in how we dealt with pregnancy, in terms of how we dealt with women who were pregnant and who were unmarried at the time. Absolutely, because I feel like they're really trying to sweep this under the rug. And in general, the state have been very like not as passionate when it comes to mother and baby homes. There's always opposition that have to beg and plead for the state to intervene, even getting apologies. Like it always takes so much time. So it's just I think people are just frustrated now at this point that it's another point in history where it's like we could just actually learn from this and we could actually say period point blank, a mistake was made. let's fix it, let's correct it, let's have a conversation about it, let's not sweep it under the rug. Like, we have such a shameful history in this country, especially in relation to the church. And I feel like we're only at the beginning, I think, of really uncovering what, like, the effects of that. So I just don't think it's appropriate, even if we are in a housing crisis, which is what people are arguing. Like, we're in a housing crisis, like, we have to get the space to do these things. But I'm like, you can solve a housing crisis while also being compassionate, I believe. So we will see if the government intervenes, which they definitely won't. I don't think they will, because they've kind of made their stance clear. But here's hoping. We'll talk about this one because I actually think it ties pretty great into this topic, because we're talking about the mistreatment of women, which is just a pillar of the society at this point. Let's talk about the Epstein Files and that, like, Epstein float that was at it was actually at multiple parades, actually, in Mayo and Galway, but the main one that's been kind of getting attention is the one in Ballinrobe. Oh, brother, guys, if you've seen the video, I almost couldn't believe. Like, I remember seeing the Epstein float video first, and, like, not actually seeing what was going on the float, just thought there was an Epstein float, like Epstein one, and I was like, I don't know, like, I thought it was first like a, yeah, release the files kind of thing, like, draw attention to it. But the problem is with the Epstein files is that it's become so trivialized and so, like, kind of like a joke online, and, like, people don't actually care anymore about the fact that we're talking about women and children who have been raped and trafficked. Like, people don't understand, like, we've moved past that for some reason and moved on from what the core of the actual issue is, and now it's like a gotcha moment for celebrities, it's a gotcha moment for politicians. It's like, like, and which it should be, like, we should be trying to find out the politicians. Oh my god, these people should be in jail. These people should be in jail. I really, like, it's actually really worrying that a lot of these politicians, or any, all of these politicians and all of these high up business people and celebrities or whatever, are still roaming the streets free. But it's just become this kind of, like, joke online, I feel like. The Epstein Files, right? So it's not shocking to me that now this has translated into real life, because I feel like sometimes when things are so heavy online, you think it's fun. You don't, like, I don't think it's funny, but people think it's funny because they're seeing it online. They're seeing it online. They're seeing these jokes, and it's like you're so desensitized to it. You're just scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. I think the shock factor came from seeing the things that we already see online and the jokes are being made online, and seeing that in person at a St. Patrick's Day parade. I just don't understand how they thought that was appropriate, period. But why a St. Patrick's Day parade? Anyway, so at the parade, there was a float going by, and it had these teenagers, like, simulating a rape, and, like, a woman being raped, a woman being chased. Like, they thought this was the funniest fucking thing they could do. I just don't understand. I just don't understand. Oh my god. Oh my god. Anyway, sorry. I've been, like, just thinking about this, right? So anyway, the whole thing was that they were trying to depict a sexual assault, and the people who run the parade in Ropes, they had no prior knowledge that this was gonna happen. They have no idea how this happened. But can you imagine being a victim? Or you're with your kids, or you're just, like, imagine being there and seeing that. Like, I really, really feel for victims, because, like, I can't imagine how triggering something like that would be, when you already feel like you're in a world where people don't take you seriously, people don't believe you, people don't, like, acknowledge that what you've gone through is a difficult thing. To see that being made a joke in front of so many people, I just can't even imagine how heartbreaking that is for them. So yeah, my heart goes out to the victims for sure. But anyway, it was brought up in the doll, and, like, cause they were talking about, like, International Women's Month and stuff, and I'm like, of course this is what happened during International Women's Month. But yeah, they were talking about that and how, like, inappropriate it is. But and also, this Manosphere documentary came out recently. The Louis Theroux one. I actually watched, like, I think 10 minutes of it, and I was like, I'm not in the mood to be rage baited, honestly. And so much, and I've seen, like, the talks about it and stuff, but, like, it seems like it was so surface level. I'm gonna watch it, and then maybe we can talk about it properly next week. I actually have an idea for a great guest to talk about this stuff, because she reached out to me before, but I just was. Miss Girl was struggling. Okay, so I just didn't have, like, the capacity to actually figure out what I would do. Um, but now I actually know what I'm in a better headspace, is what I will say. So I'm actually gonna work on that. So she'd be a great person to talk about it, because she is, like, she writes books on feminism and like women's rights, and she's a lecturer, a professor, like just incredibly intelligent, and also somebody who can explain things in a way that's understandable and like not talk down to you. Because I hated being in college and lectures when people would talk to you and you're just like, please speak to me like a human being and not somebody who's going to be correcting your work or grading it. And like I'm not I'm not a critic. Like, just speak to me like a regular human being, okay? I'm not your peer. I'm a student. Like, let's just chat, okay? So she's really good at that, of like making things understandable and like you can actually have a conversation. So she'd be great to have on. So I'll talk to her and hopefully we can have her on next week. But anyway, or next week or the week after, some point. Some point. Anyway, back to what's happening. But anyway, this documentary came out about the manosphere, and it just seems like so many parents I don't think understand what's going on, like how bad it is for kids online and the type of comfort, the type of things that they're consuming. I think now more and more people are starting to realize this because of this documentary, because of that movie Adolescence. Like, I think now we're at a point where people are like, okay, my child is actually consuming like red pill content and content telling him to be the alpha dog and to treat women like shit and all of that kind of stuff. I think parents are finally understanding it, but the problem is that some of these parents know that this content is out there, but they just don't take it seriously. So you have a situation where boys are learning from their families to just be boys. Boys will be boys. Like, there's always been a conversation about should we be teaching kids early on, primary school level, about how to respect women, how to treat women, how, like, about the patriarchy and about misogyny and how they come into it, and about sexual violence and how they can do their part to stop that, to prevent that, to not have any part in that, to like protect the women around them. We've always had conversations saying that we should do this, but at every turn there are parents who are like, no, like, let's just let boys be boys, like, don't be putting ideas into their heads. But I'm like, these ideas are being put in their head regardless, but it's from the opposite side. It's from a hateful and place of anger. These kids are being taught things regardless. So it's either they're being taught healthy practices or they're being taught these horrible, disgusting practices, which is what leads to situations like this. If these kids had been taught, they're teenagers, but if they had been taught from like 7 or 6 how to properly talk about sexual violence and sexual assault and all of these things, and how to treat the women around them, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what's a joke, what isn't a joke. Had they been taught that, how to just respect women, if they had been taught this from such a young age, they wouldn't be in this situation now. And parents just refuse to admit that because what, boys will be boys, we don't want to make them feel bad for their masculinity. Like, that's not what people want. Nobody wants to make boys feel bad for being boys. We just don't want them to treat sexual assault like a fucking joke. That's literally it. We don't want them to sexually assault people. We want to teach them what consent is, what boundaries are. Like, I feel like people are not understanding that even what happened in UCD, this again is a result, like those pictures being spread and people taking this as a joke, is a result of the content they're learning online, and also parents not checking their kids and saying that's not appropriate, that isn't, I don't understand why you would think that's a good idea. Okay, because even listen to this, the Irish Independent interviewed some of the parents of the boys. Okay, one of the fathers of the teenage boys who was on the Epstein float says this has been blown out of proportion and that the boys meant no harm. I don't think people understand that intention doesn't negate impact. Just because you didn't mean to hurt somebody's feelings doesn't mean those feelings aren't hurt. Just because you didn't mean to offend somebody doesn't mean that person's not offended. Like, and the fact that a grown ass fucking man does not understand that is the issue. That you're teaching your child, this could have been a perfect learning lesson for these kids, that the whole world is saying all of these things, like it's so inappropriate, it's so horrible, and obviously they might be sitting at home thinking, oh my god, this, I did not mean to do this, I feel like shit. This would have been the perfect opportunity for that parent to sit down and say, but do you understand why people are upset? Do you understand how this could have happened and why people feel the way that they do? And if they don't understand, to explain it to them. But no, instead of doing that, you've actually sat down and made this person feel, or these kids feel like, oh my god, everybody hates us for no fucking reason, like this is so stupid, we didn't do anything, like I didn't even mean to do that. You've now made them feel like Like, I feel like a start helped their villain origin story, I feel. Because you're like, everybody's blown inside of proportion, you did nothing wrong. So now they're sitting at home going, I've done nothing wrong, and all these people are so angry at me. This is so unfair. Life is so unfair. Let me go onto the internet and see people who agree with me. This is so unfair. Nobody likes when men are men. Nobody likes it. Like when we make jokes, you can't make jokes anymore. Everybody's so woke. Everybody's a snowflake. That is what you are leading. What happens when you don't correct behavior? Like, I is this confusing? Is this confusing? I don't think it's confusing. I don't think it's confusing. Another thing the parents said was, that's what happens in parades. Whatever's on the news, you highlighted, and that is what happened. Nobody was hurt. What is your definition of hurt, though? Because I was hurt watching that. So, am I nobody? Victims were hurt watching that. Parents were hurt watching that, knowing that their children had to watch that. Just because you feel like nobody's hurt doesn't mean that nobody was hurt. What is your definition of hurt? Like, again, it's just like, oh my god, like these are the thoughts of a parent who is conditioning their child to also feel this way, which is very, very worrying. And it's like a cycle that could have been ended right now has just continued. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'll say on that. Like, obviously, there's probably so much more to be said, but I think I've gotten how I feel and my point across on that. Okay, last topic. Oh my god, this is my longest podcast episode ever, I think. We're at an hour. Sorry, guys. But not sorry. Like, I feel like an hour's not too bad. Sometimes I'm like, I wish I could do like a short 20-minute one, but like, I've been cursed with the yapping disease. Anyway, so let's talk about Joe Conway. So who's John Conway? He is an independent senator from Waterford, okay? And he's on the cultural and educational panel. So he's been on that since 2025. He tried to run to be a TD a couple times. Failed, hence senator. I do feel like sometimes senators are just failed TDs because senators get like appointed to these positions. I mean, there is votes sometimes. Um, but I do have some controversial, not they're not controversial views about the Shannon, but I do think it's very ridiculous that you have to have gone to like a National College of Ireland to vote for to be sent to vote for senators. Like it's just so elitist, and it's like, God, get a grip. Whatever. Next. Anyway, so Joe Conway's been on the cultural and educational panel since January 2025 as a senator. Before, and why he's on that panel and how he was appointed there is because he used to be a principal. So why are we talking about Joe today? Okay, he was speaking at the Oireachtas Education Committee, and they're talking about the provision of special education. Right? He had some interesting things to say, which are worrying for an educator to have these views. But anyway, he said there must be something fundamentally wrong with schools when there is so much deferment by children with additional support needs to SNAs. So he's basically saying there's something wrong. Why do so many people need SNAs? Like why do we keep giving kids SNAs? Right, interesting. Then he said that when he was a principal in a rural school, he said we usually encourage the teachers and the parents and the pupils to build a sense of independence in the children. He said now, lots of children were presented in their classroom as being needy or attention seeking. And the teachers are overworked. It can be very, very fractious. He said, the more independence that these kids have and that we foster in children, the less we'll need supports. He says, we can tend to produce in classrooms a situation where there's an untoward gravitation towards support and it may not always be necessary. The concept of calling children who need SNAs needy and attention seekers as an educator, is that not crazy? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's such an old school way of thinking that, like, one is worrying to have from an educator, but it's just a common thought anyway. It's like the same idea that, God, all these kids are so, like, are neurodivergent now. Everybody's autism and everybody's ADHD. Like, we didn't have that back in my day. You literally did. Half of our fucking parents are depressed as shit. Or grew up depressed as shit because they had no fucking support. Most of our grandparents grew up thinking, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with the world and nobody understands me. I don't understand the world and I don't understand other people. And they grew up depressed thinking that something was wrong with them. There was nothing wrong with them. All they needed was support. Okay? All these people who are autistic or ADHD or who are neurodivergent, like they've always been there. They just did not have the support that they deserved. And like the idea that now everybody's struggling and everybody needs support, it's like, well, then let's just give them that support. Literally just give them that support. It doesn't hurt you to do that, by the way. It doesn't hurt you to have a child who's autistic who has an SNA. It actually doesn't hurt you to do that. So why don't you just do that? Obviously, I know we don't have enough SNAs. Actually, we do have more now, but we don't have enough SNAs. We don't have enough school places. We don't have enough schools, period. We don't have enough teachers. So that's where the struggle comes from. But don't put the government's lack of action, lack of support for people on these kids. Don't blame them for something that the government should be dealing with. Saying, well, they really don't need that much support anyway. They just do, though. They just do. Tell that to their parents. Like, oh, that's just too old. You're too old to be thinking like that, Joe. You're just too old. Anyway, he was challenged by this anyway, by other people who were there at the Oireachtas committee. So an autism campaigner, Emily McPhillips Sheridan, said, that's not right. The children have needs. It's not that they're attention seeking. And then Adam Harris, who is Simon Harris's brother, actually, shout out, and he's the chief executive of As I Am, which is an autism advocacy group. He said there's an expectation that we should conform to environments that do treat us as misbehaving children, as opposed to meeting our needs and centering our rights. Like, Joe, please, come on now, Joe. You're just too old to be thinking like that, and like, you actually know better. Like, you should know better as an educator. You just should know better. But then I'm like, maybe because he's so old, that's why he thinks like that. Because like, it's the 21st century, actually. There's so much education out there and so much information. I just don't know if you stopped reading at a certain point or what, but you should know better. So shout out to Joe. But anyway, that's all we have for today. That's all we have. It's been like over an hour, but to be fair, we've been catching up on so much. I wonder if there's even things that I miss. I don't think so, but if there are, it clearly wasn't that important. Genuinely. Actually, we covered so much. I actually feel like this is a decent episode. So shout out to everyone who listened today. And I hope everybody had a great week and continues to have a great week. Because I'm going to try to have a great week. I'm going to Manchester next week. I'm going to Mane. I said I was going to practice my Manchester accent. Or just an accent in general. Because I do, when I travel, love to put on an accent. Because I just think it's so funny. But I do think trying to do a Manchester accent in Manchester is a little ballsy. Considering I don't even know what a Manchester accent is. I know H is from Manchester. And I know it's like that. No, he doesn't. No, he actually doesn't talk like that. But I do know that he says Mane. I'm going to Mane. So we'll see. Maybe I'll work on it. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great week. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye.